Aug's not starting today, I'm going to show you how to fix it. So the first thing you want to do is, before you pull it all apart, is make sure it's running. So make sure it's in the on position. So that's in the off, that's on the on. That's the trigger. This is the choke. So the choke needs to be on. You can't have it on run, it's not going to run. When the engine's cold, you need to have it on choke. Make sure you prime the fuel by pressing this until this completely fills up with fuel, and then one more. Once fuel is pumping through the throttle, it should be able to start. So give it a pull and nothing's happening. So next we're going to check for spark. So what you want to do is put some gloves on at this stage. Pull off the cover, check for spark. So put your socket in, undo your spark plug. It shouldn't be too tight, this spark plug. Remove it, and then we want to check if it sparks. So we need to put it to the body here and give it a good whirl and see if it sparks. And if it doesn't spark, if the tip looks like that, you need to clean it up. Use some oil in a can and get rid of it all. Even a bit of sandpaper will help. Same in here. If there's gunk in there, corrosion, just clean it up with a screwdriver, a bit of sandpaper, a bit of oil in a can, help the connection, and give it another whirl. If you see a nice long spark, you can put the spark plug back in. Now when replacing the spark plugs, make sure you check the codes on the spark plug and replace it with the correct spark plug. You don't want to be buying any spark plug and plugging it in here. You could damage the engine. Also, when tightening, you don't want to over tighten. You just want to do a little bit of about 25 newtons. You don't want to really be pulling down on it. You don't want to break the head. You want to make sure you can hear it clip in. Now if it's still not sparking up, you want to check the wiring. Just make sure, pull it all apart, check all the corrosion, check the switch in here, and we'll get to this a bit later on as the trigger's not working. Next stage is we want to pull off the carburetor filter and cap. This is the filter. You can replace them, or you can wash them out with hot soapy water, let them dry out completely, and then they're good as new again. Before you go pulling apart the carburetor, a good way of trying out and seeing if it is the carburetor's fault is having some fuel in a spray bottle, opening up the choke, spraying a bit of fuel in there, closing the choke and giving it a good pull. Now if it starts and stops, there's something going on with the carburetor, and we'll go through it and fix it. But if it still didn't start, still worth pulling this thing apart. The other option with this not starting is there's too low compression in the cylinder and everything you do won't actually start it. But it's a very small chance of that happening. So there's two screws here. This will remove the carburetor. As you can see, that's choke. Closing it off allows more fuel to air ratio, which allows it to start on cold starts. So with the carburetor, just so it's a little bit easier to work with, we're going to remove the accelerator cable. We can do this by pushing down on the throttle, and it'll loosen up the cable, and then you can pull it out, and this will release the cable. Now looking at it, it's definitely missing a part, so I'm glad I went ahead and ordered this online. It's got all the gaskets and everything. All the jets are brand new, so $20 worth it. So what we're going to do is, with yours, you're going to remove the 4 screws at the base. and your carburetor will pull apart. Now, with first of all replacing the fuel pump or cap, after you unscrew it, it just pops out and you can replace it. So if it's cracked, it's definitely not starting there. Now this is the other part, so what you want to do is grab your carb cleaner, spray through the little holes, make sure there's no gunk in there. If there is gunk, it's not going to work. Next, same with this. When you pull it apart, you want to make sure there is no gunk in any of the holes. Use your carb cleaner, spray it all out. Normally these fill up with gunk and it ends up blocking up. The bottom here, just pull it off slowly. There's a chance of it breaking, but you can get replacement gaskets. Just clean all this out, use your carb cleaner again, just make sure all the little holes and the jets are clean. Normally the problem is this gasket here when it comes to fuel not filling up. So this little flap here sits on this opening here. So make sure it's clean, and if there's anything here, this little flap won't actually sit flush on this, and this, what happens is when you press the pump, sucks fuel up through here. Just switch this around. Sucks fuel up through that little hole there, and then when it stops sucking, the little flap shuts back down and sort of seals the fuel in. And if there's any debris in there, it will stop the fuel from getting sucked through. After you've cleaned it all out on this end, you can go ahead and put it all back together, making sure there's no debris on the gaskets. It's a good idea to film yourself doing this, because if your carburetor is different to this, you can always go back and see how it came apart. Fuel lines, or a blocked up filter. If there's no fuel coming through, it could be the filter, so you can pull off the filter, put it in fuel, press the button, see if it comes through. Filters are easy to replace. So we're going to remove this, so we'll take off the cap just to give us a little bit of a hand there. Take out this, and put a flathead screwdriver in there, and we want to work it. Now we've got new lines here, we're just going to put it all back in. Starting, we've got to make sure the throttle's working, and it's not, it's jammed. So these screws are a bit rusted, so spray some oil on the can on them, all of them. We want to use a flathead screwdriver first because they're all rusted. That's where we're at. It's not going anywhere because it is up to its highest position. That's why it's not going anywhere. It's going to come back down. Why isn't it going in its down position? Because it's not moving in here. Simple as that. This here is jammed up and we need to free it up. Okay, so this needs to start free spinning, and it's kind of jammed in there. So what we'll do is you start on one end. You did spray oil in a can in it, both ends. I'll try and pull this out. remove that. Use a clamp to hold it in place. And on the other side, we want to give it a tug. Even a pair of pliers and tap it with a hammer because vibrations work better sometimes. So I'm trying to do this at an angle so you guys can see. And that's freed up now. So instead of pulling it, grab a pair of pliers and just tap it with the hammer and that'll free up. And on the other end, it would have come out. So let's try and feed that. You can hear it, it's quite rusted in there. So all we'll do is grab some oil in the can, spray the line down, try and get some in there. You can kind of work it. You can Now that shouldn't be tight at all, so if it is, you need to release that because you don't want any of the throttle being up at all until it stops moving. As soon as it stops moving, which is there, you want to tighten it back up.